Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Dear Miss T with Terry Ruelle. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, everyone. On this beginning of March, we are getting close to spring. I'm excited. I have spring fever. It's sunny and going to be 64 here in Fayetteville, Arkansas today, so I'm feeling very grateful. I have cardinals out my window, and I got my first vaccine shot yesterday, so things are really going forward in a positive way. I hope that you all are feeling some spring today and getting some sunshine. I do feel an energy shift and some forward momentum in a good way, even though we're going to talk about some difficult things today, and there is still some real heavy energy out there. I think hopefully this will help us to understand it better, and for anyone who's been subjected to this kind of cult or conspiracy energy or oppression will be able to break free of it. I and many therapists are available, to help with that, or for family members. So I was thinking I would start with the most important thing, I think, to understand is that people who are recruited into cults or conspiracies are people who are vulnerable at the time. And during this pandemic, everyone has been vulnerable. In fact, probably more so than we even understand yet. Because I was listening to some of the teachers and mystics about the Black Plague and the pandemic back then, and how powerfully that affected the whole world. And it was because people were so vulnerable. And one of the things they talked about was that because of the Black Plague, that's when the split, at least in the Christian church, happened between nature, seeing nature as part of Creator, part of the divine, part of all that was good, and became something to fear and to dominate and control, because people didn't have the science to understand, of course, what was happening. And there was so much fear about the plague that they started to fear nature, that this has come from nature and nature is against us. And that was when the split happened, really, where the mystics tell us that the church, the Christian church, and many of the movements started away from nature as, the creation, the good, the part of the divine that was the most, wonderful and mysterious, but beautiful and perfect. So that kind of really made me start thinking about how powerful, the fear of the unknown is for people, and uncertainty. And I think, that's a great deal of what happened with this pandemic, is that the people were already vulnerable, and anybody who was became even more vulnerable because of not only the uncertainty of their health, but the economics and everything else combined. So, it's really important to remember that recruitment into cults is always goes after and usually gets the most vulnerable. That's why a lot of cults really target young people. The Nexium cult, which was a huge controversy for a long time, and finally was broken and revealed, how evil it really was, mostly went after women in their 20s. So of course, people who are younger are seeking and they're more uncertain, and they're trying to find, out answers and get a sense of belonging. So one of the things that cults do is they go after the vulnerable and they invite them to a non-threatening event. And there's no hard sell in the beginning. It's all about love bombing and giving you a sense of belonging and welcoming you in. And they'll present a lot of people that are, attractive and successful, that are showing that this, cult really, well, of course they don't know it's a cult then, but that this group is really, going to give you all these good things. The other way a cult can go after vulnerable people, of course, is through fear. And that's part of what we've seen with the QAnon. But for a lot of people, it started out attractive in the sense of it was a game. People were bored. They were stuck at home. They were worried. They wanted something to take their mind off of all these things they felt they had no control over. And the QAnon, the way the FBI people talk about it is, it's almost like a Matrix game, or the game that the kids love to play, where you can get to different levels if you keep getting better and better at it. Only with QAnon, it was you can get to more answers and more secrets and more things that most people don't know about. And so you start to get this feeling of specialness, and that's part of the prize that they're dangling in front of people. It's always, you're going to attain something special if you join. And you want something from them, and they are promising, something of a prize that you will want, whether it's a sense of belonging or acceptance or answers, or happiness, safety, redemption, justice, validation. You want to be special. To get something special, you have to show people, too, the others who are successful. So that's one of the, cults can be as, they can be like pyramid schemes, where they're not that dangerous, other than though they can get people into financial trouble. Or they can be pyramid schemes in the sense, like I say, of you have to keep putting more and more time and energy and building your belief system in this to find the answers that you want, or to get your curiosity, solved. And if you're fearful, or if you're vulnerable and in need of anything, that's going to be very attractive to anybody. So then they go on to, once they really have love bombed somebody enough to where they're feeling part of the group and feeling really good usually about the group, even if there's fear, they can be feeling good that they now belong to something that's going to help keep them safer. And there's a belief that's being built that they need that safety. Okay, that's like with QAnon, that there's these reasons why you need this. And especially they'll appeal to keeping your family safe. QAnon reached out to people in all different things. They got a lot of people in through saving the children, to appealing to people's sense of wanting to save children from child trafficking. So it can appeal to people's sense of, justice and wanting to do good things for the country or for the world, which is what NXIVM did. There is a lot of gaslighting and a lot of confusing messages where they take things that are good things and turn them into beliefs where people stop questioning themselves. Like, you know, you might hear a therapist say, we don't usually grow in our comfort zone. When we're trying to grow, we're going to be uncomfortable. Well, NXIVM took that and turned it into, no matter what they threw at people, no matter how horrible it was, little by little, gradually, over, you know, a couple years, they turned that into, no matter what we're doing, you're going to be uncomfortable, and you should be uncomfortable, because that's how it works. And people started to think, question their own selves and think that their discomfort was their fault and that they had to get over that. So they eventually extract an agreement from you for the prize you want. Okay, they make you come up with the prize, so you think it's your idea. Okay, like, don't you want to be saved? Don't you want to be financially independent? Don't you want to know the secrets of life? Don't you no longer want to be addicted or gay? Don't you want to help the world or save the children? And eventually, you know, what have you got to lose? So there's so much, you know, that's what brainwashing is. It's a lot of mind manipulations, and they often do this through endless mazes of courses or games or levels where, you know, you're almost there, but you're not going to get the answer unless you go here and learn some more here and go to this next level. And so once you have agreed to what you think you want and you think it was your idea, they got their hooks in you. And so now you have identified with the cult. Without ever realizing it, you know, that you have been totally manipulated, that you think now it's your idea. And once you've identified with the cult, then your belief system has shifted to what their belief system is, okay? And even if you start getting some, like you say, those thoughts or feelings, like as it gets more absurd or more immoral or more decadent, that, oh, this doesn't seem right, then they start shutting down any dissent by shaming or threatening. Either shaming or threatening to withhold the prizes, or shaming through fear, like, or shaming through you're unpatriotic. You know, if you really love your country, you're going to do whatever it takes. And a lot of people who are vulnerable to cults are already people who are shame-bound. They are already people who have been shamed a lot in their life and don't have a real high sense of self-worth. But it's not just them, you know. NXIVM and some of these other groups, Moonies, theirs was
Heaven's Gate.
AR, I think it was called.
Remember Heaven's Gate, Terry?
Yeah, Scientology.
Right.
I mean, these can be very intelligent people. It's not a matter of intelligence. It's a matter of, you know, over time and gradual brainwashing that is so covert that people don't recognize it's happening to them until they're already hooked. And then the shaming or withholding can be devastating to them because they've, you know, put their whole selves into this. And they really, believe it. So they think it is their fault if they're questioning anything. I mean, even religions have done this. It's been done in many different ways at many different levels, to radicalize people. And the worst of it gets when they start not only shaming people, and threatening to withhold whatever it is they're trying to get. Then some of them will move into sleep deprivation. They take over your whole life. And this happened to a lot of QAnon people, where you have to be in it online and in it all day long. The one woman I saw they interviewed, she talked about realizing she was neglecting her children because she couldn't get offline. And so you're getting sleep deprived, you're getting time away from everyone else, you're isolated now, you're just only with this group, and you're not eating a lot of times well or taking care of yourself. So it's really physically takes over too. And everything has to be about whatever the cult is preaching. And like I say, any objection to it is either gaslighted or you're going to pay a price.
Terry, would you explain the term gaslighting?
Gaslighting is when somebody takes something you say or believe or a thought you have and tries to turn it around to cause either confusion or doubt or make it untrue. Like, you can't really feel that way. That doesn't even make sense. So a person will start questioning themselves or questioning their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that causes you confusion or, like I say, a kind of a feeling in your gut, and then you're made to question or doubt it, but not be allowed to because of how you feel, but question or doubt it because the other person is telling you that it's wrong in some way or incorrect. So it's basically a way to create enough confusion and self-doubt that a person starts questioning their own thought process, their own beliefs, and especially their feelings.
Thank you.
And anybody that you talk to who's been in a cult will tell you that they had gut feelings at times, especially as things maybe got more violent or more immoral or just more against what they had thought was the right, way to live. But they were immediately shut down about expressing that, and if they did try to express it, they were told that their feelings were, somehow wrong. And over time, people stopped, if they did allow themselves to experience the feeling, they felt more shame for having that feeling because they were told so many times that it was wrong in whatever way they were told. I mean, they'll come up with anything to try to confuse the person or make them, like I say, not believe in themselves, and then they shame them. And so eventually people start disassociating from their own selves. They start numbing out. I can't feel anything. It's a trauma, I can't feel anything now because I'm just going to feel more shame, and it's going to be so painful or so scary because I'm just going to feel more fear that I just have to disassociate from all my feelings. And that's when they really start being able to control people and get people to do things they never would do because they're no longer feeling their feelings or trusting them. And the establishment of guilt and shame gets so deep that these people become totally shame-based and shame-bound, and then they are vulnerable to any kind of manipulation.
Thank you for that, Terry. Charlotte Banks is saying, wow. Now, that definition of gaslighting explains a lot. Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing that with us, Terry.
Oh, of course. And, I can try to get some more on that for next time, too, because that's an important subject in itself.
That would make a great show.
Okay. And one of the other things that happens, too, is once people are so isolated that their only contact is with this group, they not only can't deal with the shame, they may start to get, enough rewards and approval of their behavior, as well as punishment for bad behavior. But they begin to get really, dependent on getting some kind of reward from this group, too. So, that can be, just being approved of by the group and becoming validated. It's that carrot stick thing, the reward and punishment. And it's a form of abuse. And, of course, this is how people get control over other people, and how cults work and conspiracies work, too. This is how they get people to believe a lie, even when there's tons of evidence in front of them saying, to show them that this is not true. Their whole identity now is wrapped around the belief system of this cult or conspiracy. So they can't allow themselves to see any truth anywhere else because they've been, brainwashed to believe that only this cult or this conspiracy theory holds the truth. And, once their identity is that involved, they are going to be able to, even go into altered states, like disassociation, and keep overriding their own emotions. And in the really dangerous cults, the punishments can get very severe, mm-hmm. to where it is, life and death. Now, for real. And with QAnon, I think it did get to that with the people who ended up rioting on the Capitol, because they truly believed that it was life or death, and that they had to take over the government or they were not going to survive, or the government, the country wouldn't survive, and that they were truly being patriots. Mm-hmm. And so, it's these false dichotomies that cults set up where, and it's kind of a form of gaslighting too, if I can explain this, where you give a person only two choices, but neither choice is really true. But you've got them kind of beaten down enough to the point where they believe those are their only two choices, and so they have to choose one of them, and both of them are bad choices. Like you have to choose to either become violent and do this and take over, or this country's going to be taken over, and you're going to be in prison. It's always that black or white, all or nothing, either or.
Well, there are people right now, Terry, that believe tomorrow, March 4th, there's a conspiracy theory alive and well that says that tomorrow, March 4th, Donald Trump will be reinstalled as President of the United States.
Yes. And that's how you know that it's a cult. Like I say, when people have gotten to where they are desensitized and unable to take in any other information. It's not just an unwillingness. They're not even able to anymore.
Wow.
Because they believe that to do that would be a danger to their health and well-being or their very life, as well as their families and others. So, you can imagine how hard it is to break through that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people even do self-harm in these cults because in their mind, it's a life or death situation. I mean, even the old, fanatical religions were, people did self-harm, wore those things that would cut their legs, and I forget what they were called.
The scalise.
But, yeah, and women did that in NXIVM. I mean, they became sex slaves for this psychopath who, won like 16,000 people over, and actually was trying to create his old harem and got these women even to let themselves be branded with his initials. I mean, people do things that they, would never, ever have done, and no limits become logical. Like, once you're to the point where you're brainwashed, you're not even thinking anymore, there has to be a limit to this, because it's logical. Think about it like a family structure, okay? Say in a family, there's a father who's considered the head of the household, and everyone believes that he has a say in how everything goes, but this father is an abusive alcoholic. But all these kids, everybody's grown up to believe that that's normal. And so even though this abusive alcoholic father is spending all the money on booze, and they're all on the verge of being homeless, and he's hitting everybody to shut him up, there's no dissent allowed, all this stuff that might be obvious to us that is horribly unhealthy and, sick and abusive and dysfunctional, to those people who have been in that long enough, they don't see that as being out of the norm. Mm-hmm. That is the norm for them. Mm-hmm. So it takes a lot of help for people to get well from that. And it's very, very painful, like say, on the rest of the family who's watching this happen. And it's very dangerous when it happens, to this large of a population in a country, because then it's, hard for people who have been isolated in that kind of belief system, like I say, to hear the truth about anything else, mm-hmm. especially if there's some propaganda machines that are pumping this out every day. And that, like I say, that's all the people are listening to. Mm-hmm. So they're not getting any other outside information. That's why it's so important for us to keep an open mind and to try to listen to different information and do, and research and stuff, because we need to be able to have the big picture and, be able to see things from different perspectives, and be able to trust our gut and know that we're doing critical thinking to be able to know that we're on the path of truth. And once you break down a trust in a society of what is true and not true, it becomes very difficult to heal that. And that's, partly where we're at right now. And this is a dangerous time for that, because it makes everyone vulnerable. When people don't know what to believe or don't want to believe anything that, is the normal path of what we usually do, or they think all of that is a lie, you're vulnerable to anything.
Is it useful, Terry, for family members outside of the cult that are, bearing witness? Because there are a lot of families right now that are absolutely torn apart. Is it helpful?
And I would, encourage them to seek help, because they need to be able to process that and grieve it, and understand how little they might be able to intervene. But even if it's just a little, it's still going to make them feel like they're not totally powerless, and it may be eventually what helps somebody open up. Like I think we talked about last time, just even taking someone fishing, and just say, I don't want to talk about politics or anything else. Let's just go fishing and have a nice day. Just bringing some normalcy back into their life and some balance, and breaking that isolation and that connection to only the group.
Thank you for that.
This is, like I say, it's something that we're all going to have to work on and be aware of, that we have to learn how to listen to ourselves and listen to each other and trust our gut most of the time. It very rarely is not going to be telling you true unless you've been, like I say, desensitized to the point where you're just numbed out. And then, if you start numbing out, or you need to talk to somebody. If you're getting confused and you don't know what to believe or think, and you feel like you're torn and conflicted, that's a sign to reach out and talk to somebody. And, we all feel that way, really, right now, to some extent. So, I just believe that any kind of mental health therapy is one of the best things we can do for ourselves, because this is hard stuff we're living in.
It is. It is. So learning to have some compassion, too, for those people that find themselves ensconced in a cult, or, living as part of the conspiracy, because sometimes we think, I'm guilty of this, of saying, wouldn't you think they'd have a clue by now? But from what you're describing, it's sometimes not even possible for them to get a clue, because they've turned their sensibilities over to somebody else or something else.
Yes, and that's all they're being exposed to. And it happens, gradually over time. I mean, nobody thinks they're getting brainwashed until it's too late, usually. If they stay with something long enough and, aren't, or they're feeling, like I say, some sense of control and empowerment when there's feeling a lot of fear and shame, then that's very seductive too. It's like we don't, how would we know the difference if we weren't, educated in this stuff, or hadn't had some therapy? We wouldn't know the difference. We would think that we're, on a good path. And that's what, like I say, some of them have done, even with making things that were like going to make the world better. You're going to make the world better. That's very seductive. Most people want to do good.
Exactly.
And then once they've got you hooked, then, like I say, then it's when it starts to turn, and that it's not really about what's going to be good, only they still believe that.
Kelly Spencer is saying, this is such an important message. Thank you for having the conversation, Terry.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for asking me. Anything you guys want to talk about, please let me know, and I'll try my best to get some information for you.
So what's this first step, Terry, for somebody who maybe they're embarrassed that they got swooped up in it all, and now they're just kind of hiding because they're embarrassed and they don't know who to talk to about, reconciling with their family. What's the first step in getting back on track?
Well, if you're a family member, you can help them by, like say, loving and accepting them and inviting them to things that are outside of the controversial stuff, that are just going to give them some compassion. And that's going to help them start getting out of that shame bind, and they may be more open then to reaching out and getting help. When they see that they're still loved and accepted, remember, our biases, we all have them. So we have to override our own biases and know that they might have their biases, but what you're doing is just unconditional love and acceptance. And hopefully that's helping them, like I say, become unshame bound to where they might be willing to reach out and ask for help, or they may finally say to you, I think I might need to talk to somebody. I'm having a difficult time with this. And of course, in therapy, we always say, talk from the I, talk about your own experiences of your own challenges or struggles and what helped you. And, if you have been involved in something, please hear, there's no shame in it. Anyone is susceptible to this. And therapists are out there, and it's confidential, and they will support you through it and help you to heal from it. And know that, you have the power to do this. You have the power to heal, and you have that right. And even if you don't know anybody, you can, message me. You can, ask friends who they like in their, their region. There's, I can't think of the name of it right now, but I'll post it on the page. A really good phone therapy place where they vet all their therapists very well, and you can know that anybody you go to on there is going to be legit. So, that's always the best way, is to get help. None of us can do this on our own. We need help to, support each other through this.
Mm-hmm. For those of you that are listening wherever you happen to be, Terry has a Facebook page. It's called Dear Ms. T. And she posts some wonderful, wonderful, insightful things on her podcast page. So please give her a like and check it out. She's really good about sharing and connecting. Terry, thank you for sharing with us today. Such an important message.
Thank you so much, and God bless everybody. Take good care of yourselves.
Okay, that's a great question, Kelly. Are there suggested emergency numbers for people to call that may be in fear for a loved one's life? I will connect that question to Terry Ruelle and get that answer hopefully posted on her page. And if you go to Dear Ms. T on Facebook, you can find out how to connect with Terry Ruelle if you feel that you would like to speak with her, or that someone you love needs to speak with her. With that, everybody, thank you for joining Terry and myself this morning. And next month on Dear Ms. T, it'll be taking it a step further into the subject of gaslighting. Blessings be, everybody.